All right, welcome to the A's Philosophy YouTube channel. I am A's Philosophy, and it has been, I think, well over a month since I did any content on my channel of any kind, and that's a long time. It's longer than I would like, and I guess a big part of the reason for that is that I was up until very recently focused on the debate that I was going to be having on SFT channel. So I wasn't as much interested in producing content as I was preparing for that debate. Now I probably could have done some stuff, but really, I think that I just was more interested in making sure that the debate went well. And so I decided that, man, it's been such a long time. I just got to get something going. So let's try and see if we can get a discussion going. We'll see if anyone joins, if anyone has any interest. If no one joins, then I can shut down the stream or whatever. But I thought I would at least throw something out there just to give people the opportunity, and maybe someone who saw the debate and wanted to interact with me in some way. This could be an opportunity. Uh, so I will talk a little bit about the debate, and I don't want to reveal all of my thoughts right now because I'm still waiting to see if some things happen in terms of responses from other people. Because for a long time I was wondering. I had been interacting with people on YouTube, and I just part of me was wondering, are they not responding to my arguments because they don't know who I am, even though I've talked to them, or are they just trying to ignore me? So now that I've been on Standing for Truth's channel, I know that a lot of very influential people, well, Donnie himself, who hosts Standing for Truth channel, is influential, and a lot of influential people who have themselves have large followings watch his channel. And you can go and look at the people he's hosted on his channel in the debates he's had. Some of them have extremely large followings. And I know that they are aware of what takes place on his channel because I've seen them doing reviews of debates that have taken place on his channel. Usually it's probably their own debates, but nevertheless. So I'm not going to reveal all my thoughts right now. I'm not going to say everything that I want to say. I might wait a week or two before I start, making some statements here and there. And whether people hear those or not, is another question. But yeah, so talking about the debate itself. Oh, Objective Ethics is here. Yeah, Objective Ethics. I'm just going to take a few minutes to kind of basically, reintroduce myself, since it's been such a long time since I've done anything, and kind of give my thoughts on some things. I haven't actually discussed the debate I had last week, so I wanted to just talk about that a little bit, and then I am going to open it up for discussion. I do want to chat with you. So you will certainly be welcome up in just a few minutes, and we can talk about any number of things. We don't have to talk about the things that I talk about right now. We can talk about, completely different matters. But I do want to 15 minutes. Okay. That's probably about perfect. So I'll probably open up the room about that time. Let me know when you're back so I can post a link. Or let me know when you're ready, whatever the case may be. Yeah, but I wanted to talk about the debate itself, not necessarily the response to the debate. But I had, first of all, let me say this about Donnie, who runs the Standing for Truth YouTube channel on which the debate took place. I just want to give him immense credit for bringing me on to debate, because I've been interacting with Christians, self-purported Christians on YouTube for several years now. And I have brought a very different perspective based on my own research, based on my own analysis. And a lot of people think that I'm just basically this, wacko, crazy, nothing I say makes sense because of some of my takes, but I actually do take what I'm doing very seriously. And I think that I've basically developed a system which, first of all, if we believe something, it should be based on what's true. So I just simply think that what I believe is true. I'm not going to believe anything that I think is false, and that goes for everyone. But I think that the reason that it's true is most likely, now whether it's actually true is kind of unknowable. But the reason I think it's more likely to be true than what a lot of other people are the ideas a lot of other people are expressing, including historical traditional perspectives, is because I think my system solves a lot of problems that plague when we're talking about Christianity specifically. That so it solves a lot of problems within Christianity, and also I think I've solved some problems that exist outside of Christianity specifically, but in the areas of philosophy that touch upon religion, theology, and things like that. And I really think that my perspective can help people form a more coherent and realistic and real worldview. And that's important. That's important to me because I really do think that a big part of improving society has to do with what is our foundational belief structure about how to approach reality. And it's not just about improving this world, but because because I do believe that humans have a soul that goes on and is non-contingent upon the physical realm. You know, I'm trying to do things that I think or believe will have impact for eternal implications. So all of this is very very important to me, and I do believe that this world, unlike a lot of Christians who are just waiting for the end times and waiting for Jesus to come back, and they really don't contribute anything meaningful to society because they persist in this mindset. I actually do believe that a large bit of Christianity is improving this world. Like we have to make this world better. That's what Christ taught. If this world wasn't important, then I don't think Christ would taught what he taught. I don't think he'd be talking about helping people and making the world a better place, which is a lot of what he taught in terms of ethics. So I think there's a reason this world exists. There's a reason this reality, this earth, this life is important, and God put us here. And God wouldn't have put us here if he was just going to blow it all up in the end and just take everyone and just end it in a split second and just turn into something completely different, like a lot of Christians believe. A lot of Christians, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent from the debate itself. I don't even remember where I was. I'll get back to it eventually. I'll circle back around eventually, but I think this is important as well. A lot of Christianity is extremely destructive, and I think that Christianity, which teaches that we're in the end times, there's no reason to look at the world around us because it's all going to end anyways. Jesus is going to come swooping out of the sky and pick us all up and burn everything else. It's this is. I mean, I'm kind of making fun of it, but that is actually what a lot of Christians believe, and it's very destructive because when you're not committed to making this world a better place, then what happens? The world doesn't get better, and probably it gets worse, and also you're worse because you're not motivated on doing the right thing. So that version of Christianity, which is actually quite popular, is pretty destructive in my opinion. It's destructive to the individual. It's destructive to society. So I don't like it. I think it needs to be. It needs to be. Those people need to change their mind and realize that if you're not basically, this world is important. We need to do the right thing in this world. If only because God said if we don't do the right thing in this world and improve it, then we're not going to be saved. That's exactly what Jesus taught. So all these Christians out there sitting around just waiting for the end times, which I was, they have their, subconscious reasons. Probably a lot of them just don't want to do the right thing and, make the improvements necessary in themselves. So they come with the excuse, well, we're going to get taken away anyways. They don't want to get off their butts and actually like contribute to society, just like a lot of other people outside of Christianity. They're all gonna receive their judgment. Where on earth was I? I was talking about the debate, and somehow I got here. I think I was talking about how it solves problems. Oh yeah, okay. So basically, my viewpoint solves a lot of these issues within Christianity. And that's important because the issues affect how we actually live our lives and how the world actually operates and what happens in the world and whether it's a good place or a bad place to live for everybody. So that's why I do take this seriously. But a lot of other Christians, with whom I'm right, I'm not, the most well-known individual, but a lot of people you know, don't take me seriously. The ones that have, they think I'm just making things up. I'm just deleting things I don't like. They think I'm just, basically, essentially. But no, I actually have thought about, what is logically possible with the record of Christianity that we've been given in the text, in the Bible, and all that. And I think I've synthesized it into something where it all kind of makes sense. And it solves a lot of the problems that Christians continually discuss amongst themselves. For instance, I think that the debate on SFT was about salvation, which is something that Christians argue over constantly. How are we saved? You'd think that after 2,000 years, we'd have an answer on that most central question, but we don't. And the reason is because there's a lot of confusion that comes from the text itself. When I first was introduced to this when I was, researching Christianity and talking to Christians, and I was reading the Bible and reading what Jesus taught, and I was like, this is what Jesus is teaching. And then, like the other Christians, a lot of them very popular, people who have large followings, and I talked to them and pointed these things out. Some of them were not well known and just people I knew in my own life. But they were going to these passages and basically refuting what I was saying from the Bible itself. And then that's when I realized that there's a very serious problem that needs to be solved. And I took a long time trying to figure it all out. And at the end of it, I did come to the conclusion that you can't harmonize all this stuff. You can't reconcile it. You can't reconcile Paul and Jesus Christ. Even though I spent, a very long time and emotional energy trying to do that, I just realized that I couldn't prove what I knew to be true because people were relying on this trick of saying, well, the Bible says this, so if it's there, it's true. I can rest on that. The problem was I was reading one passage which said one thing about salvation, which would come from Christ himself. And then other people would fall back on these other passages that did not come from Christ, but were nevertheless in the Bible, which is a construct of the early Catholic Church. And thus each side could, from that perspective or standpoint, demonstrate that what he or she believed was true based on the foundation. And the grand realization that I had after so much of doing this for so long was that, Paul is not a true apostle, and his writings are not foundational to Christianity. They were added by the Catholic Church. Not that they were written by the Catholic Church, but they were simply something that was written by Paul or his followers or something. And the Catholic Church put them in the Bible with Jesus, so to give this appearance of equal authority to Jesus. And that's the battle we're fighting to this very day. This is what the Catholic Church did. The early Catholic Church, even before it was called the Catholic Church, in the first couple hundred years of Christianity. So I just realized that this problem is very easily solved when you recognize that what most people think is the foundation of Christianity is actually not. Mike. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I intended to talk about the debate, but every time I start talking about the debate, I end up going on a tangent. I am gonna talk a little bit about the debate and what I think about it. But I think I started all this by saying I want to give credit to Donnie. This all started because I wanted to give credit to Donnie, the host of Standing for Truth channel, for having me on, because he gained absolutely nothing by bringing me on. Now, Donnie, a lot of other channels have booted me, banned me, don't let me comment on their YouTube channels. Even when I don't go on people's YouTube channels, and sometimes I'll make snarky remarks. Sometimes I'll have a little bit of sarcasm, but I don't go on there and do what a lot of people just say, "You're stupid." you're dumb. No, I actually try to make relevant comments based on what's being discussed. But I just for doing that, a lot of other Christian channels have banned me from doing that. And a lot of them, purport to be people who, take on all challengers. They're out there exposing, the lies and presenting the truth, but they won't even let me comment on their YouTube channels. And when they host an open panel, they block me and things like that. So this has been my experience with 99% of channels out there. But Donnie, who has a very large channel with thousands of subscribers, and really nothing to gain by bringing me out, allowed me to come on and have it and debate my views, which I'm just so appreciative of that. I'm almost still in shock that he allowed me to do that. I don't know. I just feel like maybe Donnie is different. Maybe he actually. I guess it's proven he actually is willing to let people have these discussions on his channel. Even though I know that Donnie disagrees with me and probably also thinks that I'm a crazy heretic or whatever, but nevertheless, he did what a lot of people wouldn't do, which is allow me to stake my beliefs, present my views, and do it in a debate setting, which is a lot of what his channel is. So I have to give Donnie credit and thank him for just allowing that to happen, because most other people don't want to hear it. They don't want to have their views seriously challenged. They'll take on people who kind of operate within their own paradigm and operate under the same premises. Charles is here. Okay, good to see you, my debate opponent. Good to talk to you, Charles. Good to see you. I'm gonna, have a little chat here, and then I'm gonna open up the room. You don't have to join, but if you're here, you can listen to what I have to say, or you can contribute as well, whatever you want. But I just want to say, I just want to basically conclude maybe about the debate for right now, right this exact moment. That I think it's awesome that Donnie allowed me on his channel to have a debate, not once but twice. All right, you're at work listening while working. Okay, cool. But as for the debate itself, and my debate opponent is here listening, so I will be respectful of that. I think that my general system stood the test, and I was able to present a viewpoint that I really never felt my viewpoint was having reviewed the debate, thought about it, wondering if there was something said or done that basically made me think that I'm wrong. That did not happen. But I do think I also presented a lot of things for people to consider who are of the, especially the evangelical Reformed Protestant viewpoint, that salvation is in fact by works, which is an important thing to recognize. And I don't know how my debate would have influenced Catholics or Orthodox individuals, because the Catholic and the Orthodox Church technically teach that you do have to obey the commandments and stuff for salvation, but they kind of get around it by saying that, you have to do the good works, but it's not really you doing the good works, because it's God infusing you with this empowering grace that makes you able to do the work. So even though the Bible says, we say you have to do works, it's not really you doing the work. So all you have to do is have faith, and then God gives you the grace to do the things, which is, a bunch of nonsense. Because anytime you make a decision, that's a decision that you made. It's not this, superpower grace making the decision for you. So if you say that you have to do works for salvation, and obeying the commandments is actually would be clearly defined as doing works. If you say you have to obey the commandments, which was what the Orthodox and Catholics teach, then at the end of the day, you are not saying you were saved by faith in the most absolute sense. So I think that once you realize that you can't offload the fact that you have to obey on God or some super empowering grace. These are things that they make up to get around the problem of the fact that the Bible clearly teaches we're saved by it works. Jesus said, "Without me, you can do nothing." So I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Like, what is the context? Like, give me the verse. We can take a look at it. But does Jesus mean that we don't make our own decisions? Is that what that means? Like, is Jesus like controlling us? Like, we're just a bunch of robots, and Jesus is just back there like making the decisions for us? Like, when I choose breakfast in the morning, is that Jesus making a decision, or did I make the decision? Because when you choose what you want to eat for breakfast in the morning, which is I'm just trying to think of some minor thing that we do, minor decision we make. We're making that decision. That's something that we do. So what is it? How does this work? So can we get out of bed in the morning without Jesus? Is Jesus like invisibly there, like picking us up and moving us around? We have to really try and figure out and think about what these things mean. But anyways, I would really like to, first of all, also give credit to Charles. Charles, I've been asking to debate people for a long time on YouTube, and I don't know. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think I said this during the debate. I think there are a lot of people who run from me. Even now, you can chalk it up to I'm insignificant. It's not worth taking me on. It's not worth whatever. But there's probably some truth to that. But you give credit to Charles. Like, I have to give credit to him as well, because he was willing to engage with me. And he was willing to do it, basically meet me kind of where I am. He didn't try to pigeonhole me into accepting these foundational, these presuppositions. He tried to, look at the system that I'm working with and basically argue against that, as opposed to say, well, you don't accept the Bible, so there's no reason to even talk to you, which is what a lot of Christians do. So again, give credit to Charles for even being like, I think that there's a lot of these people out there, they hide behind their presuppositions, they hide behind their foundations, and they don't want to engage because their entire worldview is dependent on people accepting their premises. But when you don't accept their premises, their claims and their doctrines crumble very quickly. So let's see what happens. Let's see if someone else rises up to the challenge and can take on A's philosophy and his system. Jesus came to give us spiritual life so we can obey the spiritual law of God. Why? So we can't obey God unless Jesus gives us a superpower to do it? Jesus can't tell us to do something, and we can't just do it on our own merit or on power? Why? What's stopping us? Surtur. I really don't understand. I'm being serious. Like, this idea that we can't like do good things or obey God unless we get a superpower from God. So God's going to give us commands, but God knows we can't do those commands for some reason unless God empowers us to do them. Why doesn't God just make us so that we're able to do it, and then we can bypass the whole needing to be infused with grace or whatever spiritual life it is you're talking about? I'm not trying to like demean you, or I'm just trying to think through the what you're posing here, Surtur. And make it show on a bare level, like it doesn't conform to reality. Okay, you need to realize that your understanding of the Bible has to conform to the reality around us. Okay, general revelation has to work in by the way, is Objective Ethics back yet? Is he ready to? Because I did want to talk to him. Well, do I want you to join? Maybe not exactly this moment because I had set up a conversation with Objective Ethics about something we had talked about a long time ago now. But maybe at some point, sort of, we can talk about these things. You can join if you want to like listen. Oh, okay. Oh, Objective Ethics is there. Okay. You know what? I think I've been talking for long enough. So let's. Anyways, I will continue to. I think at some point, I will give a more thorough review of the debate, and also, at some point, I'm going to look at the response that is being had about the debate that I had. And depending on what I see, which at this very exact moment is not very much, I may have to like try and call some people out. We'll see about that. We'll just kind of see how things develop. But at this moment, I was supposed to be a little disappointed. Now, no one's obligated to respond to me and take me seriously or talk about the things that I do. I mean, no one has the time. No, everyone has, to choose how they spend their time in their life. But I presented a perspective that can't be ignored now. Yes. Open up the panel. Yes, I intend to do that. I intend to do that very, very soon. I want to finalize this. Basically, let me finish by saying this. At some point in the near future, I don't know if it's going to be next week or the week after but I want to talk about the debate more fully and really kind of respond to what I'm thinking about the response to the debate more than anything. Let's go ahead and open this up a little bit. All right, link to join is pinned. Again, we don't have to talk about the debate. I really didn't intend to talk about the debate itself tonight, except to just kind of give some overall thoughts, which were pretty incoherent for the most part, unfortunately, because when I set up the stream, I hadn't really thought exactly about what I wanted to say, which is typically a bad idea. But at some point, I will give a focus review of the debate itself and what I'm hoping to see as a result of it. All right, the link is pinned for people who want to join. Cannibals eating Jesus literally as Catholics or symbolic as Protestants. Yeah. What's up, Objective? How are you? I can't hear you. You might be muted. Oh, no, there you are. I hear you now, I think.
I'm doing good. It sounds like there's another person talking as well. Is it just?
Yeah,
I'm good, but I thought I heard somebody else as well, but I don't see anybody.
Yeah, there's no one else here. It's just me and you at the moment.
Huh.
So that's probably just the voice. It's the voices in your head, man.
Down my YouTube.
Oh, yeah, it might be a background noise or something.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, I was just kind of I haven't done
Did that cut out the?
Before you go forward, Objective, which I do want to talk to you and hear your thoughts on things, especially about our more recent email exchange. What exactly was I going to? Oh yeah. Now I was talking about the debate, but we don't have to talk about the debate. Like, we can just drop that for now and go forward with we can just go forward with a different conversation. But if you did want to provide some thoughts on the debate, feel free to do so.
Yeah, let's do. I think that you've got some really good momentum right now, and so why don't you just keep doing what you're doing, and I'll be hanging here, and if I have anything to add, because I did watch that debate, I'll jump in. I think this Sidar guy is trying to join. I don't think you should need any passwords if you join through YouTube. If you join through StreamYard, you might need a password, but if you're already logged into YouTube watching, then you should just be able to join.
Yeah, sir. I think Objective Ethics is right. I think you just have to click the link. You don't need to log into anything. You shouldn't need any passwords.
Yeah, if he's got StreamYard, so what just happened to me why they were getting that feedback loop is because I was watching you on YouTube, but I just downloaded StreamYard to get my own channel going. So I did a test stream today, which was a nightmare. I still got to figure some shit out because there was major lag issues. But at any rate, so when I clicked the link, even though I was watching on YouTube, it popped open StreamYard by default. So I had to go back in and shut down YouTube. But when I did
Right.
StreamYard, it asked for, who are you logging in as?
Right. Yeah, it's a little complicated at first, the logging in, the StreamYard, and then the YouTube and stuff like that. But after you do it a few times, you start to get the hang of it.
Yeah, what surprised me is because I'm actually doing this, I'm doing it on a tablet. I'm not using my laptop. But my tablet should be more than powerful enough because I know people are doing this on their phones and they're hosting live streams with StreamYard on their phones. And my internet connection is very strong because I run a business line. So I'm not sure what the lag issues were, other than I had YouTube opened at the same time and it was my first time doing it. But I may have to just use my laptop for this. I just can't believe that this notebook isn't strong enough to do this.
Yeah, and I don't know why this popped in my mind, but I just felt it necessary to say, like, I wanted to have this discussion stream because it had been such a long time since I'd done anything on my channel. And as I said at the very beginning of the stream, I don't think anyone might have been here. Part of that was because I was preparing for the debate itself. But I've said this 1,000 times on the channel. If I could clone myself, the second me would just be like doing YouTube content and stuff. But my life is kind of busy outside of YouTube, and the YouTube is just kind of like a side passion that I have. So it kind of has to submit to the rest of my schedule. But unfortunately, that means that I just do not have a lot of time to produce content, even though I think it's extremely important. So that's kind of, I just want to put that out there as to why people aren't seeing more of me on this channel. It's just because at this very moment, I'm trying to set things up so I will eventually have more time to do this. But as of now, my schedule is going to be a pretty sporadic, and it's going to just be, shooting from the hip, do it when I can, which probably won't be too super often. But eventually I'm hoping to get a point where I can do it maybe like multiple streams a week. But that's probably a little ways off at the very least. So I just apologize to the small number of people who do watch my channel. Like, if you're wondering, like, why isn't he doing content? Like, I wish I could do more. I really do. And I appreciate the engagement for people who do come, Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry, Sirap.
Hi.
Sirap. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, I've been here before. You remember me,
I know.
right?
Yeah, you're Surtur. I know you're
Yeah,
Surtur in the chat,
Yeah.
and then Sirap. So yeah, I knew that was you. I was just calling you by your chat name, your comment section name. But I guess now that you're on the panel, I'll call you Sirap.
Yeah, that's my real name.
Yeah, I was gonna. Let's do it this way. How about Sirap? How about you and I chat for like 10 minutes about
Sure.
what we were talking about, and you can present your viewpoint, and then I'm gonna have a discussion with Objective Ethics about something that we were hoping to talk about.
Yeah, now
And
you
then
guys,
we'll go for
I want you to take as much time as you guys need. Now you're the one who's probably in more of a hurry than I am. I don't know what your schedule is tonight, but I've got the day off today, so I've got all the time in the world to wait for you guys to sort it out. I'm gonna try and actually test a microphone while we do this.
Okay.
So you guys do your thing, and then let me know. Like if it starts going for an hour or something, then maybe I'll have to, that might be a bit.
No, it will. I think 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. I just don't want you. Don't feel rushed. You've got plenty of time.
Just so everyone's aware, I will probably have to shut down the stream at about 9 p.m. Eastern. So that's about an hour and a half from now. So that's kind of the time limit we have. But so Sirap, present your perspective, and then I'll just kind of give my thoughts. So go ahead. So basically, you're of the opinion that humans are incapable of obeying God unless God gives them a superpower to do so. Is that more or less?
Yeah. When Jesus came to die for us, okay. When he came to die for us, he not only died for us, he died for the sins of the whole world. Do you agree?
I mean, I'm just going to agree just to.
Okay. When Jesus was on the cross, it says God put on him the sins of the whole world. That's what God did. Jesus died for the sin of the whole world. But Just because he died for the sin of the whole world, that doesn't mean everyone is saved. Okay? See, when he died for the sins of the whole world, he wiped the slate clean. He wiped the slate clean. Now, by faith, you come to Jesus to receive his life. He didn't only come to forgive our sin, but if he forgave our sin and he didn't give us life, we still be forgiven dead people, because in Adam all die. Jesus says, I came that you might have life. See, the only way Jesus is gonna give you life, when by faith you receive him into your life. He says, when he says, this is my body, it's being broken for you. Why is it being broken? Take and eat. In other words, I have to come and live in you in order for you to have life. If I don't come and live in you, you will not have life. So when by faith you see what Jesus did for you, that's why you love him. We love him because he loved us first. So when by faith you love him, that's when he is able to come and live in you. He says, I knock at the door. If anyone opens, I will come in. He's not going to force himself in anybody. You have to let him in. Once he comes in you, now you have life in you. Now you are spiritual being. The Holy Spirit is living in you, right? Now you are child of God. Now your whole essence is changed from being dead in Adam. Now you are alive in Christ. Now your whole character is changed, because God made it. Says, I'm gonna circumcise your heart and I'm gonna put my laws in your heart. This is God's doing. It's not us doing. If God didn't do that, none of us could live this Christian life. We are living not because not to be saved. We are able to live because we are saved. Now we are a new creature in Christ. That's how come the old life is gone. Now the new life, we are walking in the newness of life. We are walking in the Spirit. So if people don't understand that, you think they can earn salvation on their own. If they could earn salvation on their own, Jesus never didn't need to come and die. So this is
Right. No, you're
yeah.
right.
Go ahead.
That's
Go
well,
ahead.
that's exactly what I believe. Jesus did not have to come to this earth and die for people to be able to go to heaven. I've said that countless times on this channel.
Okay.
Why would so your opinion is that people can't be in right relationship with God unless Jesus comes down and gets basically brutally murdered, right? That's your viewpoint, right?
Well, it says when Adam sinned, right? By Adam sinning, everybody got the same nature as Adam.
Right. Who said
Everybody.
that? Who
Okay.
said that? And where does it say it?
Where does it say that?
Yeah,
Sin. It says sin entered through one man,
I
and
understand that.
all sin, right?
But where does it say that in the Bible?
It
Let's
says
think
it
about
in.
this.
Doesn't it Paul say that?
Yes, Paul,
Okay.
exactly. Well, you know where
Okay.
Paul says that?
Okay. So I know
Hold
you
on,
don't
hold on,
believe.
hold on.
You don't believe Paul's scripture. I know you don't
Right,
believe.
right. Exactly. That's the problem. That's the
Yeah.
problem you have. You are working from a worldview where you have embraced the idea that because Paul says something,
Okay. Okay.
that means it's true.
Let's not go. Okay. When God told Adam and Eve, you can eat from all the trees except this one. If you eat from this tree, you're gonna die, right?
Yeah, okay. So that
Okay.
would
Now,
right.
when he's saying you're gonna die, what kind of death is he talking about?
I would probably say spiritual.
Okay, spiritual. So when they ate from the tree, okay, not only they died spiritually, they're gonna die physically also. Because if they didn't eat from the tree, they were gonna live, they weren't gonna experience death like we experience today. Do you agree?
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, right.
so and not only when they ate from the tree, they knew what evil. See, they knew what evil was. In other words, their
Mhm.
eyes was gonna open, right?
Right.
Okay, so when you read the Bible, when God is saying, don't eat from this tree. Don't eat from this tree, because as soon as you eat from this tree, now you're gonna know what good and evil is. Okay?
Hmm.
And by
Hmm.
knowing good and evil, it's not only gonna kill you, it's gonna kill you also, but you're gonna know what good and evil is. But if you don't eat from the tree, if you don't eat from the tree, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna guide you what good and evil is. See?
Mm.
Okay,
Okay.
so because it says now man became like one of us. God is saying, God is saying, man became like one of us, knowing good and evil. God is not lying. He's really literally saying, see what Satan is saying, God, it's not fair. It's not fair you're guiding them. Let them know on their own what is good and evil. See, that's happening in the Garden of the Eden. You're thinking this is between Adam and Eve. No, this is between God and Satan happening in the Garden of Eden. This is what's happening. See, you don't see the further picture. There's a picture behind what we see. That's why Satan is tempting them. Why is he tempting them? He's saying God is not fair. He doesn't want you to know what good and evil is, right? But
Yes.
if we stayed with what God said, if God guides us what good and evil is, it's we are less endangered in a way. You understand what I'm saying? Like if you guide your
Yeah.
child, you know what good and evil is, he's less endangered. But if he thinks what good and evil is in his paradigm, now he's not only dead, he's out of God's will. Now he's going through with the flesh. You're getting my point, right?
I understand. I understand
Okay.
everything. There's a
I mean, there's a truth in what I'm saying, right? You see that?
okay. Yeah. No, there
Okay.
is. There is.
Okay.
There's but
Okay.
there's also some nuance there. Remember, our
Yeah. Yeah.
original
Okay.
question was like, there's a difference between God or Jesus or the Holy Spirit guiding someone, and God or Jesus or the Holy Spirit actually doing the things that they're doing. So, from my viewpoint, Sirah, I Scripture has to be consistent with what I observe in my life and in reality, because in my opinion, and I don't see why anyone would disagree, like the universe itself is the ultimate revelation of God. So I actually take the reality around us as being higher precedent than Scripture, because let me just say why I do that. Because humans can't manipulate the laws of physics, and they can't manipulate basically the reality around us. We can just operate within it, but humans can reinterpret and basically corrupt and manipulate words to suit, which is what people do. They read it. Christians have all kinds of different views because they're reading the same book, but they're interpreting things a different way. But you can't like reinterpret gravity. All right, you can believe whatever you want about gravity and how it works and why it and how it exists. But you can't change it. You're not going to influence how it affects people. So
Yeah.
reality around us, our understanding of Scripture has to be predicated on what we observe in reality around us. And I just want to say this. This is what I'm getting to. What I observe is that God is not making my decisions for me. I am making my decisions. And my decisions include the good and bad things that I do. So God is not doing my decisions for me. He's not like implanting decisions in my mind that then, unfold in reality. I'm doing that within my own mental processes. So I am responsible for all of the good and bad things that I do. And that is based on observations of reality. It's not based on interpretations of scripture. So do you see where I'm going with that, and why I think that humans are responsible for everything they do and not God or Jesus or the Holy Spirit?
Yeah. No, God is not responsible for what we're doing. But we are. We when Adam and Eve see. When before God created Adam and Eve, okay, you didn't think he knew what was gonna happen.
Maybe, I kind of embrace open theism, so maybe he didn't. Maybe he.
No, no, no. That's see, God said we read in the Bible. God knows the end from the beginning. Okay, He knows. He knows. If God wanted all His creation to be pristine, right? Just like he wanted, he said, I want everybody to be exactly how I want them to be. In order that to happen, he would have created everybody like a robot.
Okay.
But that's not love. You know, you want to live as a robot?
Yeah,
What?
I agree.
Yeah, it's what good is it to live as a robot, right? So that's why he created everybody with the free will, even the angels. He created every angels with the free will. That's why the angel could rebel against God because he has that free will, right?
Right.
That's what he did. But God, before he created the angels, he knew what was gonna happen. He knew there's nothing that he doesn't
Sure.
know. Okay,
There's a very
yeah,
go ahead. Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
but in order, because his love, he's given us free choice. See, that's what love is. Imagine if you say somebody, see this woman, you say, oh, I love you so much, I'm gonna marry you. If you don't marry me, I'm gonna kill you. you know
Right.
you know how
Right.
ridiculous that is, right?
Mhm.
That
Right.
can't be love, right? Okay, so when is God creating the creatures, because he is love, he's created them free agent. He
Right.
knows exactly what's going to happen. But even see, if you take all the bad things that happen, let's say from Adam until today, if it's 100,000 years, which I only think it's 6,000 years, but if you say it's 100,000 years, if you say it's a million year, okay, if you compare all these bad things that happen to eternity, it's not even a split second. Do you agree?
Right. Right.
Okay, so if all these things are gonna happen and people gonna learn something from it, but in eternity, none of these things gonna be repeated. See? So something happened in split second in eternity, all these bad things happening in split second in eternity, it's like nothing compared to what we have in eternity. That's why he had to create everybody free agent and let all these things happen. But we end up in eternity, and in eternity we are loving God, right? And we learn from our mistake, and we know who God is. If none of that happened, we don't even know, we can't even see the love of God towards us. You see what I'm saying?
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So now so when Adam sinned, in a way what you're saying, see, Enoch walked with God, and he was no more because he was walking with God. In other words, Enoch was able to walk with God just like you're saying you can do it. So
Hmm.
one in a maybe in a million if they are able to do, but that's not going to be enough. See, that's why, I mean, yeah, some people could do that. Yeah, I'm not arguing they can't, but God wants to save everybody. How is he going to save them? By giving his spirit, by coming and living in us, by giving us his life, his power. He says, not by might, not by power, not by might, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Without God's spirit, we don't have the power to overcome sin. You
Okay,
understand what I'm saying?
I understand. That's a
Yeah,
claim.
yeah.
I simply don't agree with it because all throughout Scripture, which I do consider Revelation, uh, reliably recorded enough to believe. We see God giving us a choice. Even in Deuteronomy, verses I pointed to many times, which say, choose life or choose death.
Just stay.
Well,
Yes.
why would God give us a choice if it let me try to phrase this properly. If God gives us a choice and tells us to choose one way or the other, to me that means that it's up to us to do that. God isn't determining or empowering us to do one or the other. We are the ones that do that on our own initiative and by our own merit. See what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
the very fact that God commands us to do one thing or the other implies that we have the capacity within ourselves to do one or the other. There's a mentality in Christianity that we can't be good unless God empowers us. That's not true.
No, I mean, no, no,
Who is
no.
actually?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in the Old Testament, we see there are people that are good, right? There are good. But see, the wages of sin is that one sin. You only have to commit one sin in order for God to take your life. It says the wages of sin is death, right?
Mhm.
Adam and Eve ate one fruit. That's all they did. And he said, you dead. So uh, because we have a holy God, right? Um,
Mhm.
and we have a loving God, and He is a just God, and He is a gracious God. See, you have to take all these things into consideration. So now first he's saying, I put before you life and death. Choose life and live, right?
Right.
But a lot of people are trying to do that, and God is okay with that, is okay with that. But a lot of people are not able to do that. That's why He's coming to the rescue. I mean, He says, God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son. Whosoever believeth in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life.
Let me ask you
And
this. Let me ask you something. So, why did God need Jesus to die to be able to empower us? Why couldn't He just empower us without needing to kill Jesus, who was an
yeah,
innocent person?
okay. Look, see, there's you have to go behind what see. You read in it says the angels look. We are made into a theater, and the angels are looking into it. Have you read that in the Bible?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
what's happening? What's happening? When Jesus came on the scene, what did God says? He says, "I'm gonna put enmity between you and the seed of the woman. You're gonna bruise his heel, but he's gonna crush your head." Right? Okay. Now he's talking about Jesus. Now you have to understand, by Jesus dying on the cross, okay, he's not only forgiving our sin, he's doing other things also. By Jesus dying on the cross, he's showing all the angelic being who Satan really is. Let me tell you how. When Jesus was led to the after when he was led to the wilderness, right, and he fasted. After he fasted for 40 days, the devil came to tempt him. He tried to tempt him. He says, if you're the Son of God, do this. If you're the Son of God, do this. And Jesus didn't buy it. He says, only worship God, only do this, only do that, right? Men
Mhm.
will not
Mhm.
live by bread alone. Okay. Now, what is the Satan trying to do? Satan is trying to make Jesus sin, but he couldn't. So
Okay.
because he couldn't, now he's saying, don't go to the cross. Remember when Peter said, why are you going to go to the cross? And Jesus said, get behind me, Satan. See, Satan
Mhm.
was talking to the Peter, don't go to the cross, because
All
the will
right.
of God is to go to the cross. Now,
Okay.
because he couldn't do that, now that he went to the cross, now he's going to try to beat them so hard, so he changed his mind. The punishment was so he changed his mind. Even he did that, he couldn't change his mind because Jesus is loving us. Okay. Now,
Okay.
when he was on the cross, now he wants him to come down from the cross, right? But
Okay.
Jesus,
Right.
because he loved us, he didn't come from the cross. Now, look what's happening. Now the angels are seeing what Satan is doing to Jesus. Remember, Jesus said, "You are of the father, the devil," to the Pharisees. He
Right.
was a murderer from the beginning. You want to kill me like the Satan wants to kill me. You are the father of the devil. So Satan is doing all these things to Jesus. All right. Now the angels see what Satan is doing to Jesus. Now they see the real character of Satan. See?
Okay.
That's how
Okay.
they see. And when Jesus, after his resurrection, is going to heaven, now it says there's war in heaven. Now the angels are fighting with Michael voluntarily. God is not saying fight against the devil. No. Now they see who Satan true character is. Now they're fighting with Michael against. So there's this war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels, and there was no place found in heaven, and they were cast to the earth. See,
Okay.
they're fighting voluntarily because now they know exactly who Satan is. See, God is not saying to the angels, fight. No, they're fighting voluntarily because now they know.
Yeah.
So on the cross, God show the character of Satan, and
Okay.
he forgave our sin by putting all the sins of the world on Jesus, and by Jesus resurrecting, now he's able to come and live in us. He has the how do you say? Remember, he says, "My kingdom is not of this world." Right? See,
Right.
we were under
I have
Satan.
a question. I have a
Okay, go
question.
ahead.
And it's actually the same question. Why so God is the being who created everything and set up the rules of how everything operates.
Yeah.
So part of what you're arguing here, or actually the basis of what you're arguing, is that God can't do this. God can't help us follow his rules unless Jesus Christ dies on the cross. So my question would be, why didn't God just not make that unnecessary step part of the process? Why couldn't God just be like, I want to help them, so I'm going to? Why did Jesus have to send Jesus to die in order for him to be able to help us? So why was the death of Christ necessary to grant that God would be able to empower us to live according to his will?
Okay, because look, God is just. His justice demands punishment, right? So God is saying, when I say the wages of sin is death, right? If you are sinning and I cannot kill you, and because I love you, I'm gonna come and die in your place. See, in other words, he's saying the wages of sin is death. Then God cannot change. So I'm taking that punishment on myself so I can let you free. In other words, if the judge says we have a rule, if you commit murder, you have to go to jail, right? So now this judge says, if you commit murder, you have to go to jail. But I'm the judge. I cannot just change the law. The law cannot be changed. But the judge says, because I love you so much, I'm going to let you free, but I'm going to go jail in your place. See, he can do that. But he cannot say, I'm going to let you go without paying the penalty of what the law is. See, the law always has a penalty. God is taking the penalty on himself because he's God. He's the one giving the law. He can take the penalty on himself. That's why Jesus cannot be a creature. See, that's another thing people have to understand. Only God take the punishment on himself. You understand what I'm saying? So, where were we? Okay.
Yeah,
See,
so you were answering why
yeah,
why Jesus dying was
yeah.
necessary.
Some people say this. Some people say when Lucifer when the Lucifer fell, right? When he rebelled against God, why didn't God zap Lucifer right there and then? Right? He could have done that.
Yeah.
Why didn't he do it?
Good question. Do you know the answer? I'm
Yeah, I
curious.
know the answer. Look,
Okay, let's go. Let's hear it.
let's say you are the president of the company, right? And let's say the vice president comes and he says, the president is doing something so wrong, right? If you at that moment kill him, what the vice president is saying about you, it becomes true or it becomes wrong. I mean, he's saying the president is bad. And at that moment, if you kill the vice president, what he's saying becomes true. But see,
Right.
God is not doing that. So all the angels, when if God did that, all the angels they were gonna believe what Satan was saying, and they were gonna worship the Father, the God, out of fear. But God didn't want that to happen. He said, "Okay, if Satan is saying is true, or what I'm saying is true, let's see what sin gonna bring." See, and see what sin is bringing, and everybody's seeing the result of sin. And on the cross, they see the love of God and they see the hate of Satan. In other words, if when Satan says, "I'm gonna put my throne above the stars of God," I'm gonna be like the Most High God. If God told Satan, "Okay, you be the God, you be the God, and I step down, you rule this universe," then you think it would have been better for Satan to rule the universe when he's a selfish being? Or you want somebody that comes and washing the apostles' feet, dying on the cross for, I mean, only on the cross we see the love of God. That's where the only place, because anybody can say things, but only on the cross we see how God loves us. See? That's the whole universe knew who God was on the
So
cross.
let me ask you this. There are a number of verses in the Bible that say that if we repent of our sins, God will forgive us. And it doesn't say anything about needing a divine human sacrifice in the form of Jesus Christ on the cross. So it does seem like there is scriptural basis for believing that if humans simply repent, God will forgive them. Would you agree with that, or do you disagree?
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, um, like you know, in the Old Testament, when you see God's law, right, and you know what sin is, even though you cannot live by God's law, there's always repentance. See, I mean, God looking at the heart, right? Even in the New Testament, people that are living the Christian life, and just because they commit a sin, right? But they're as soon as they're committing a sin, they're saying, "What did I do?"
Hmm.
They repenting at even before they committed, they're repenting already. See, because their
Hmm.
heart is changed. I mean, you have to understand all that.
I see. All right, Sirap. Well, I'm gonna talk to Objective
Anyway,
Ethics,
okay,
but
okay.
yeah, let's. How about this? Take a minute or two to just give some final thoughts, and then I'm gonna talk to Objective Ethics about something different. So, you want to just give some parting words for us, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, yeah. See, it says um, God was manifest in the flesh, okay, and seen by angel. See, when it says seen by angel, the character of God was seen by angel. See, all the angels know God is holy, but in order for them to see God is love, it needs action. Without action, you cannot prove your love. I mean, you can tell somebody you love all day long, but if you don't have any action behind it, it's just words. See, you're
Hmm.
getting what I'm saying. But
I
anyway,
see.
yeah. But I'm the same. I'm the same like Jamie Russell. I belong to the same church like Jamie Russell.
Oh, you're a Seventh Day Adventist.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. But
Oh,
anyway,
interesting.
yeah.
Okay. Well, you provide some interesting things to think about, Sirap. So we'll talk again.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you
God bless.
for
God
yeah.
bless.
Thank
God
you.
bless. Okay. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Are you there, Objective Ethics?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, I can. Yeah, you sound good.
Is it too loud? Because I just got a new mic. I've never tried it before.
Actually, it sounds just fine to me. I can hear you clearly. It sounds like it's good volume for me
Perfect.
on
I'm
my
gonna leave it
end.
there then. Yeah, that's so interesting, man. I don't want to be I don't want to be critical of the gentleman. He seems like a really sweet guy. I'm sure he's got a good heart and everything. I have no doubt about that. Actually, he's doing the best he can to save the world. But when I'm
Yes.
listening to people say these things, I cannot help but think of how dysfunctional interpretations of this religion can make a person and how morally bankrupt. To use words like
Well,
love and the analogy that he
yeah.
gave about forcing a woman to marry him and put a gun to her head, and that God would never do that. But God, according to the story, literally is telling people if they don't love him, then he's going to torture them in hell forever. I mean, I just don't understand how the cognitive dissonance there. And then the justice concept, the Bible is quite clear. Well, it's quite clear there's contradictions in that regard because, like, if you look in Exodus, I think it's around chapter 30 or whatever it is, where I think Moses is talking about the 10 Commandments. The first commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart. And in that description of that commandment, God says, for I am the Lord your God, I'm a jealous God, and I will punish the sins of the father onto the third and fourth generation. the kids get punished for the sins of the father. But then later in like Deuteronomy and other places, it says, oh, the children would never be punished for the sins of the father. It's literally a direct contradiction. So I could see people, picking which side of that they want to go with. But either way, the whole story of Jesus getting punished for the sins of the world, the story of like obviously the one about David's wives gets a lot of play on atheist channels and stuff. There's countless examples where people are getting punished for something they didn't do. But he's talking about God's justice. And it's just, I'm sitting there thinking, this is not love and this is not justice, but people have to talk themselves into believing this, or I don't know how a person can come to those conclusions. A rational mind can even come to those conclusions.
Well, I think part of it is, and I think this is true of everyone, not necessarily just Christians, but I don't think people see a lot of the presuppositions they have about their beliefs, their entire belief system. Like, let me give you an example just from that conversation we just had. Like, he tried to prove part of what he believed by appealing to a verse in the Pauline epistles about how just because Adam sinned, all humans have been imputed with a sin nature or something along those lines. So part of the presupposition there is that because Paul, and this is what I was trying to get to, because Paul said that necessarily means it's true. Now, I don't know if he's gone through the thought process of thinking, well, Paul might not be right about this, so I can't use this as proof of what I'm saying. Now, if he had prefaced his statement with, Paul said this, and I believe it's authoritative and true, but, you can't say that every time you make a statement. So maybe he has, or maybe he hasn't. But the point is, when you're reading something or trying or forming your beliefs, a lot of times you're not you, but people in general are interpreting things through a presuppositional lens, which prevents you from seeing pitfalls that exist. And again, I don't think that's specific to religious people. I think that's, probably something that applies to non-religious people as well, just in different ways. But
of course. Absolutely. No, there's no question about that. You're absolutely right. Everybody, well, first of all, as human beings, in philosophy, they talk about what they call intelligibility. And because of the hard problem of what they call hard solipsism, we basically have come to kind of an understanding that there's some basic principles that we're all fundamentally working with, even though we can't get out of solipsism. And that is that we all have experiences that are valid. Our memories are somewhat reliable. Our senses are somewhat reliable. And so we all have this basic starting point. But the truth is that's actually a presupposition. And solipsism proves that we really don't know. It could just be one brain in a vat, and you could be an illusion that's happening inside my mind. And I would have no way of proving or arguing for anything else, technically speaking. So to get out of solipsism, right, we just say, well, listen, everyone's got the same starting point. And like I said, intelligibility says our senses are not deceiving us. When I touch something, it's actually there. When I see you running around or talking on YouTube, you're actually doing that. That's not just happening in my brain, so on and so forth. So we all start with a presupposition. Where we go from there varies. And I do see politics and religion being two of the major ways that people latch on to presuppositions and dogmatisms. But it can certainly transcend into many areas of lives. It's not exclusive to politics and religion. I just see those as being the two most obvious places. And politics is not exclusive to religious people. So non-religious people do it a lot in politics. And then, of course, I see it in religions as well. But it's not exclusive to those two areas.
Yeah, politics and religion are two areas of thought that are very, very much influenced by our emotions. And again, I think that progressivism, or, I don't want to call it Marxism, maybe, socialism, this kind of, I guess progressivism is probably the best term that's widely applied. I do believe it functions as kind of a religion for, secular people, and it manifests itself as political activism. Like, even though a lot of them don't believe in an objective framework for morality, they still have a conscience that makes them feel like they have to do something good for the world. And I think that instead of being like, evangelical Christians going to the mission field and converting people, it manifests itself as, supporting politicians and political movements and political figures they like. So I guess what I'm trying to get with just is this, that these two areas are very much not just influenced by presuppositions, but emotions, which I believe only serve to cloud our ability to reason and think things through logically. So anytime emotions enter the fray, or basically personal desires, logic kind of goes out the window in many cases. Not always, because there is absolute truth. So your emotions can lead you to the truth, but they also will very likely distort you from seeing the truth as it actually is. So, yeah, you're right. Religion and politics are very much influenced by emotional factors. People don't think about it in terms of facts; they think about it in terms of feelings and what feels right. Again, not any one side or the other. Everybody. But that being said, I do believe there is truth to all of these things, but coming to it is much more difficult. But let me ask you this. So what have you kind of been up to since I haven't done anything on my channel for over a month, which is sad. I don't want it to be that way. So that's one reason I really felt like I wanted to do something at this time. But I haven't talked to you in a while. So what have you been up to? And you know, do you have any thoughts on anything? I know we had an email exchange. I don't know if you wanted to get into that, but you know, what were you? What have you been up to since we last talked on this channel?
Yeah,
Make
I
you feel good.
decided here recently, and I'm glad we kept in touch on email, because I was actually a little concerned about you, just based on the fact that I know there's been some stress, you know, with the debate and stuff like that, I assumed, but I didn't really know the origin of everything in your life. You know what I mean? But you just kind of dropped off the face of the map there for a while. And I thought, man, I hope everything's good. So I reached out to you on email, and I'm glad we had that contact, because had I not have heard from you, I think I might have been really concerned, like, man, what's going on with A's, you know, but the holidays are tough for everybody. Everyone's busy. So yeah, I'm glad to see you getting back on and wanting to do more. As far as myself, I had decided, you know, the channel that I was working as a co-host on wasn't working out very well, and it actually really hit the fan here this weekend. But it's drama that I'm not interested in giving any attention to personally. But I decided to do my own channel, just something that's going to be more professional and a little bit more in line with the things that I wanted to deal with, and so I went ahead and started that this week, and I haven't really had time because I took a little bit more of a workload on at my actual job that pays my bills. And so I obviously have to prioritize that. So it's kind of interesting how the timing of that worked. And I didn't have much time before that, but at any rate, so I'm just doing it just very casually, but it's already doing very well. I put out just a couple short video shorts, I guess you call them, just to kind of test some equipment and stuff. And the shorts have, like, I don't know, almost 2,400 views or something like that.
Wow.
I know, it just blew up. Yeah. And I've picked up almost 50 subscribers, and I haven't even started networking yet. I literally have not put any effort into it other than just doing a couple silly little things. So I do expect
maybe I can learn some things from you, because I've been working at this for years, and I will say this: if you look at the number of subscribers I have right now, part of the problem is a lot of people have subscribed to my channel. I think more people have unsubscribed to my channel than are currently subscribed. Like, people, maybe that's part of my problem, because I say so. I don't know what it is, but the fact that you already have just started all this and you put out a few shorts and you have that many views and that many subscribers is. I'm a little bit jealous, actually. I'm not gonna lie, but
I'm sorry. I'm not meaning to throw
no. I'm being, it's not a big deal. I'm just saying, like, man, that would be nice. But no, it looks like you're doing something successful. Like what? Oh, I guess the channel you were talking about, was that the Mirror Point channel? Is that the one you were?
Oh, what a nightmare! Yeah, and I don't want to give that really very much time to even talk about. I'll give you the short of it. Basically, is that I was talking with a guy. Well, you know Brooklyn Lou. You did it,
right? Yeah, I know who that is. Yes.
So I was talking to Brooklyn Lou Saturday night, and I mentioned doing my own channel, and he was like, "Oh, I thought you were doing something with the Mirror Point." And I says, "No, I really like Scott and Sophia, and I'm really glad to be working with them, and I'm going to continue to do my thing part-time on the weekends with them. But you know, they want everything to wrap back to non-dualism, and that's really all they want to talk about at the end of the day. You know, they do other topics, but they always want to bring it back to non-dualism, which I was not aware of when I said I wanted to work with them. That I somehow didn't realize that, and they never articulated that to me. So I spoke very highly of Scott and Sophia. We only talked about them for maybe 2 minutes total or something like that. And I'd say a minute and a half, I spoke very highly of them, but I made apparently their idea of non-dualism I was misunderstanding. And so I said, I think non-dualism is where the physical world doesn't exist. And
Hmm.
we could actually frame it that way and not be entirely wrong. You know, that in non-dualism, everything emerges from consciousness, which is to
Okay.
mean that if you take away consciousness, then nothing exists. So saying the physical world doesn't exist isn't the best way to articulate that, but it's not entirely wrong either. And then I said something about a little bit later about they were telling people the physical world doesn't exist in expressing their non-dualistic ways. And I didn't articulate this to Lou on his channel, but I was actually getting a lot of pushback from people that I had referred to their channel because it sounds a lot like a religion and a lot of kind of woo-woo stuff, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
and so my people, atheists and agnostic friends of mine were like, what the fuck is all that about? Oh, sorry about my language. I try not to do that on your channel. What the heck is all that about? And I was like, yeah, I don't really know. I'm still trying to learn about it myself or whatever. But I didn't say that on Lou's channel. All I said was, it's not the material world, and they're telling people the material world doesn't exist. But I wasn't
Mhm.
meaning to be mean or critical or anything about them personally, right? Just trying to
Right.
understand their view. And I said several nice things about them in that conversation. And I was on Lou's channel for like 3 hours Saturday night and only talked about them for like a minute and a half or something. Well, I went to bed and I get woken up Sunday morning by a bunch of messages. I'm getting Discord messages, emails, text messages from all these different people that I know on YouTube that are like, have you seen what's going on with the mirror point? I'm like, no, I'm sleeping right now. You know, so it turns out that they clipped those two comments and made some kind of a reaction video to make it seem like I was maliciously trying to hurt their feelings and misrepresent their channel and hurt their brand and everything. And
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
so out of it was so out of control. Like, what the hell is going on here? So I didn't even watch the video because they were still going live like 3-4 hours later, right? And I'm just getting message after message from people who are watching this going, dude, we're trying to stick up for you in the comment section, but you might want to go in there and talk to them. I was like, all right, I'll go in there and see what's going on. So I logged on. I talked to them, and you can watch this video on their channel. You know, I was very polite as always, apologized. I admitted, I said, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I didn't realize that I was misrepresenting your view. I shouldn't have, I should have been more careful with my words. And I asked them, is there anything else, any other issues you guys have you want to hash out or anything? And they're like, no. And they accused me of so many crazy things. And everything that they told me in person right there that they had accused me of, we squashed. And they admitted that they were wrong about those things. Like they said, I blindsided them the week before to have a debate about something, when the fact is I actually emailed them 2 days before that and told them I wanted to talk about this. And they responded in that email saying, that sounds great. So I certainly didn't blindside them. I didn't maliciously mean to do anything. Like 90% of what they were making this video about was blatantly false. They just made it up. And so, and they admitted
Huh.
this. Yeah, I know. They admitted it. So I was like, okay, whatever, it's squashed. That should be no problem. And then the day's going on, Sunday's going on, and I keep getting messages from people about all this drama and stuff. I'm like, why are people still talking about this? Finally, around midnight, I'm still getting messages from people, and I log on to see the video that they posted is still up on their channel. I'm like, why is this even up on the channel? And so I decided to go ahead and watch it to see what they actually were saying. And there was a bunch of accusations they made that they didn't even mention to me, because I said, is there anything at all you guys want to talk about? Now's the time.
Mhm.
I'm here. I've come to deal with this in person, because I know I didn't do anything malicious to you guys. I didn't intend to hurt your feelings. I've always spoken very highly of you. I don't know what the real issue is here. And they said, no, everything's great. Everything's fine. I was like, okay. Well, they left this video. So I asked Scott, I posted a comment. Why the fuck is this video still up if we squashed this? This was like no big deal, right? You guys said, right? You understood it was a simple mistake. And it turns out that Scott apparently thinks that this drama, he thinks using the clout of my name is going to help his channel, because my channel is blowing up already. And I do have a lot of connections online. And again, I haven't even started networking. Once I start networking, my channel is going to grow very fast. I have no doubt. And so I think Scott, he's made it pretty obvious if you read his comments that he thinks this drama is going to be good for his channel because it'll help get him clicks. And I'm like, Scott,
Yeah.
this is not a good look for you guys. I mean, you guys look like vengeful, nitpicky drama queens and hypocrites.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not the kind of attention you want. Trust me. And the fact of the matter is it doesn't hurt my reputation at all. Nobody who actually follows me or who cares about me, respects me, expects me to be a perfect human being, obviously. And the fact that I admitted I made a simple mistake and I apologized for it publicly, that's all I need to do to keep my name clean on this whole thing. It's over as far as I'm concerned, you know. And they're just, the more they drag it out and the more they try and make this into some, like, it looks like we're having some kind of a fight or something. I don't know what Scott's thinking.
I see.
It's just so insane. It's so ignorant. He just is damaging him and Sophia's reputation. And there's people who went onto that video to defend me. There's people in the comment section defending me. There's people who reached out to me, like in Discord and stuff, that said they'll never have anything to do with those guys again. I mean, this is really not helping them. And yet they seem to think it's going to help their channel grow, I guess. I cannot understand why they would believe that, or why they would want that kind of growth. You know, if there's anybody that follows their channel because of that, it's like, these are not the people you want to be associated with, bro.
Right.
But whatever.
Wow.
It's their choice.
Well, I haven't been seeing all of that, so I guess, like, you know, I'm just kind of hearing your side of it, but based on what you said, it sounds really, like, kind of strange. And, you know, I have, you know, watched a little bit of their channel based on your recommendation.
Yeah.
and well, I guess what I was trying to say is, the few times that I watched them, I was really enjoying the conversations they have. They seem like level-headed. I mean, I'm not saying I agree with everything they say in terms of their perspective, but it seemed to me like they were, you know, engaging in these conversations in a way that was productive. So the fact that they're, again, this is just based on your testimony, taking this route, you know, it's kind of wild. But yeah, that is, you know, I have to, you know.
Yeah.
Again, I want to make it clear that they probably won't see this, but I'm just taking you kind of your word for this is how things went down at this point.
You don't even have to. No, you don't have to take my word for any of it. All you have to do is go onto their channel. They've got a video with me, a big thumbnail that says something about existence and objective ethics or something like that, and just, you can watch the whole video if you've got 5 hours to waste on it, or you could just go to about the 4-hour mark where you see me jump into the live and just listen to the interaction between us. And the whole thing gets laid out right there. And you can also read the comments as well and see what people are saying about it, you know, and that'll tell you everything you need to know.
That's what I'm saying. I know there's probably a record of all this out there.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying at this very moment, all I have is kind of your take on it, but which, you know, I'm not accusing you of, you know, being untruthful or anything. I'm just saying, like, but based on what you've said, it's like, yeah, it seems strange. You're right.
I don't know. I can only guess, but given the fact that Scott has mentioned multiple times in all this drama about me starting a YouTube channel, I have a feeling that has a lot to do with it, because the comment that I made was so insignificant, and it was so, I mean, in the YouTube world, you know, you're putting out content, as you well know, there are going to be people who intentionally misrepresent you and are intentionally trying to defame you. And it's obvious they're doing it, you know. They better get used to it if they think that this, you know, that this is going to be something that's going to break them. And I was not, and it's obvious if you watch Brooklyn Lou's video, it was obvious I wasn't trying to do anything malicious. There's absolutely no way a sane, rational person would look at that. Even Brooklyn Lou himself said that he didn't think that's what I was trying to do. You know, everybody is watching that going, this doesn't seem like it's what you guys are making it out to be. This, you know, and then
it's like, even if you had intention, just like, okay, get over it. Like,
well, that's the whole thing. Like, these guys are literally intentionally trying to, like, defame me and all this other stuff. And I could literally care less. I'm not interacting with them anymore. I'm not, I could care less. The only reason is because that's why I'm starting my own channel, is because this kind of a behavior, I was starting to see signs that were concerning, and I was like, I think I better start separating myself from this situation slowly but surely, you know.
I gotcha. Well, how about this? Wait, do you want to link? Are you able to post the link to your channel in the private chat, and then I can post it in the general chat? And what do you kind of intended?
Well, it's at Objective Ethics on YouTube.
Oh, is it just your, like? Let me see if I can. Like, if you're able to send me the link.
Doing this on my laptop.
Okay.
I'd have to do it through my phone, because I'm on my laptop right now. I don't have it. I don't even have it copy pasted. Let me see if I can do it on my phone.
Let me. Is it just your your name as your YouTube
Yeah.
channel?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just me.
Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can find that real fast, just with a
It'd
search.
be a lot faster for you to do it than for me to copy it from my phone into my.
Yeah, let me.
But I'm just focusing on philosophy mostly, ethics and morality. And I'll talk religion if people want to have respectful, polite conversations about it. It's something I've studied a lot of, as you are well aware. And I'm not out to deconvert people, so I'm capable of having respectful conversations. But usually, those conversations tend to degrade pretty quickly. I really appreciate our relationship because you are willing to hear a different point of view without getting emotionally unhinged about it, which is most of the people I interact with on your channel, they just get so emotional trying to make their arguments, and they have to be right. They can't be wrong about any. The Bible can't be wrong about anything at all. And just I don't know. So I really don't have a lot of interest in talking a whole lot of religion unless it's going to be with somebody that I know can be respectful about it. But I do want to talk about philosophy, social issues. I'm finally healthy enough to start exercising again. So I'm going to start probably do some fitness videos to help people who want to get in shape, stuff like that. But it'll be a fun journey. I'm certainly not intending to do it as a career or anything. I mean, obviously it could blow up and make some money, but I would never quit my job in hopes to be a YouTuber. That would be incredibly irresponsible.
Yeah, so I've linked your channel in the chat, and the problem is even on my own channel, if some I would say post your channel link in the comments section of the video, but a lot of times it gets auto modded and deleted. I think there's a way for me to unlock the comments so other people can see it, but sometimes I don't do that too often, so I really basically if you want to post the link or just tell people where to go in the comments for people to watch your channel, feel free to do that. If you post a link, it might get auto-modded and deleted. So maybe
Usually does. Yeah, I've tried it in the past, like to post links to debates and stuff I've done, and 9 out of 10 times it will not post. Every now and again, for some reason it will, but usually it gets auto deleted right away. So I've given up on that. But you can do it yourself, like in this live chat. You can post that. If I was a mod on your channel, I would have access to post links and stuff. That's the only other way I know how to do it. But I'm actually getting ready to do. I've got a major opportunity for exposure for my channel coming up. I'm going to be doing a debate against Mark Reed on my views about objective morality. And Mark Reed is a really big name in the atheist community and in the debate scheme. He's debated like Jim Bob and Andrew Wilson, Ken Hovind, and others. So people know who Mark Reed is. And we're going to be debating it on the Raging Tomato, which is a huge debate platform. So I'm pretty excited. That'll be a big opportunity for me to promote my channel there. And then I plan on doing networking. I'm connected to a lot of people. I was talking to Brooklyn Lou when he heard about my views. He's like, that's wild. He says, I've been doing this for 10 years. It took me years and years to get, the views and stuff he's getting right now. And I don't know if he has any videos that have over 1,000 views. He might. I don't know. I haven't looked at his channel like that, but it is growing quickly already. And I haven't even started. And Lou said, well, you've been so interactive with people. You're so well connected with so many different channels. That might be why you're growing so quickly already.
It could be. It could be that you already have laid the groundwork. Oh, we got Freddie in the chat. Good to see you again, Freddie. It could be that you've interacted with so many people already that people are just aware of you and we're waiting for you to do something. And that could be part of it. But yeah, I definitely, am interested in the things that you have to say as far as everyone knows who Mark Reed is in Australia. Mark Chopper Reed, although, I'm not sure if that's the same guy.
No, Mark Reed is in Australia, actually. That's funny. He's not dead, but I don't know if there's another who this Mark Chopper is. But yeah, Mark Reed is Australian, and he does.
Yeah, that's why I got confused at first. It's like, oh, Mark Reed is Australian.
He's been on Modern Day Debate a number of times. I don't know if he's been on Standing for Truth or not. I cannot remember.
He has.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big name. I will probably, even though I believe that I'm making the argument that I'm on the correct side of that argument. Mark is so experienced in debate, and I have such little experience, even though I have performed very well. I'm not at that level. I'm not even close to at that level, you know, just the experience alone. So
Right.
it'll probably be my first loss, but you can't go undefeated forever.
Right, right. And sometimes it is almost just about putting your perspective out there, even if it's in an imperfect way. Like when I've had my, first two debates, formal debates on someone else's channel, there are a million things, and you've had a couple debates already, so you probably know, like, there's a million things you wish you had said or wish you had done, or it's an imperfect thing, these debates, because they're done live, and sometimes your opponent will ask a question that catches you off guard. Grant, have you ever heard of, you guys have never heard of Chopper Reed? No, I'm sorry to say that I haven't heard of Chopper Reed, but I'll look into him. He sounds like an interesting, or he was an interesting character, perhaps. But yeah, part of it is you got to realize that if you want a perspective that's put out there, you kind of have to take those lumps. You kind of have to do it to get what you want out there, even if somebody kind of makes you look silly for a second or two. Like, I know for a fact that there are probably people who watched my debates, and there were moments where it was like probably didn't look so good for me, but it's kind of at the same time worth it to present the perspective that I want. You know what I'm saying? So it's just part of it.
It is very difficult, and I have noticed that if I look at my first formal debate through my more recent formal debate, I got significantly better each time. Even though I won all the debates I've been in so far, I haven't actually lost a debate yet. Part of that is because my first couple opponents were so weak. I mean, they just were so, as you mentioned, and lots of people mentioned, they're like, man, the guy you were debating like had no chance, and they really didn't. And that's not my fault. I didn't go as opponents. They approached me, so, and I didn't know I was gonna kill them like that. I've known I was going to make them look that bad, I might have even turned it down, just because I'm not trying to make people look that bad. But I did have a really strong opponent last debate, and that was a really well fought debate, but I still did edge him out, with that. When I sent you that debate map from AI,
Right.
it kind of gave the thing, and the AI said I had a really strong argument, and I've got an even stronger argument. I've done even more research into ethics, and it's interesting what really surprised me in my recent studies. Modern philosophers, almost over 75% of modern philosophers are atheists or agnostics. And the majority of them, like almost 70%, well, about 65% of them, take the moral realist view that I have. So educated atheists and agnostics who are educated in philosophy and in ethics and morality, particularly, the majority tend to believe that it's actually objective based on the natural laws and the arguments that I make based on logic and stuff like that. But if you look at the atheist agnostic community of the people who are laymen in this field, it's not to say they're uneducated or stupid, because they're very brilliant in many ways. They study a lot of biology, right, for evolution. They study cosmology and stuff, but they don't really spend much time studying actual ethics and morality from a philosophical and historical viewpoint. And I would say 80-90% of the people that I interact with think that morality is subjective. And there's such a disconnect between the people who are educated in that field and the people who are not educated in that field. And it's really interesting. And my theory on that is most atheists and agnostics are former believers. People like myself who've never been a believer. I've always been agnostic my whole life. I don't have a deconversion story, but most atheists and agnostics do. And there have been other studies I've been looking into where people who deconstruct from religious beliefs they display the same trauma symptoms that people display when they leave cults. And it is very similar to that type of thing. I'm not going to say your religion's a cult, but it has the same effect on people. When people leave the religion, they lose family members, they lose friends, it can cost them jobs. I mean, it affects so many, their social life is affected. So it has this massive impact psychologically on people as they try to rebuild their life and find new meaning to their life. And this is all well laid out in studies and in science and stuff like that. If people don't believe me, they can look into it.
It makes sense. because
It does.
that's the world in which you've been
it's
raised.
self-evident. But anyway, so I think that the reason that most atheists and agnostics say that morality is subjective is because the thing that I hear all the time from the theists, particularly the Abrahamic religions, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, is that morality is objective because God makes the laws, right? Well, as I've shown in my debates against Christians on this particular topic, that's actually not objective by any definition. That's a type of subjective morality. It's called divine command theory, and it introduces Plato's Euthyphro dilemma, right? Does God do things because they're good, or are they good because God does them, right? That dilemma.
Right. Yeah.
And so the atheists, so the Christians, Muslims, and Jews have a complete misunderstanding of what objective actually means. They think because it's not based on their opinion that it's objective, right? But God has an opinion. God has a will. God has a stance. And that therefore makes it subjective to God's stance, because that's the definition of objective, is stance independent. Well, God has a stance. He's not stance independent. So it's subjective. And it becomes divine command theory at that point because it's outside of humans, decision making, so to speak. That's the claim. But they continue to hold this over the atheist agnostic's head and say, you can't have any morality. You just make up your own morality. And that's an accusation they make. And they say, we as Christians and Muslims and Jews, we have access to the real morality because we believe in God. And I see this all the time. Well, then, so the atheist, when they leave this religion, having parroted those kind of talking points their whole lives, I believe it's a knee-jerk reaction to just say, you know what? I can take my subjective morality because in my subjective morality, I know that slavery is wrong. And in Leviticus, God says you can own other people as the human beings as property. And so my subjective morality is better than your objective morality. You see what I'm saying? It becomes a kind of a psychological defense mechanism.
Yeah.
They're both misrepresenting what objective and subjective even means in this context because they haven't studied it. So that's my theory. I don't know. I could be wrong, but just because why else would 90% of the atheists who are uneducated in that field disagree with the majority of atheists that are educated in that field? There's got to be something causing that,
Yeah, it's an interesting, it's a very interesting question. Maybe your theory. I mean, your theory makes a lot of sense. I will say that it is a plausible explanation. I will say that. I'll give it that. But yeah, that's all very interesting. You had mentioned that in our email exchange that you're like you think that there's kind of more of a basis for believing in the soul than you'd originally.
I do.
Maybe...
I haven't had enough time with all the drama and everything I just had to deal with Scott and Sophia, and then building my channel, and then the more responsibility I've taken on at work. So I have not had enough time to really get too deep into this like I want to. But in my studies on morality, when you finally accept that there is this objective morality, then the natural question is, well, what is the purpose for this? Now we can look at it from a biological evolutionary standpoint and say, well, it benefits our cooperation. And that's where a lot of people go with it naturally. And it does work. It certainly, that is good. That is a good reason, quote unquote, to have this objective standard, why nature would produce it, why it would benefit nature itself. Right. But if you look for a deeper answer, then you start looking into the concept of the soul, which a lot of philosophers, ancient philosophers, the majority of them believed in the soul. They had various different interpretations of what the soul actually was and what its purpose was and how it was defined and stuff like that. So there's no real definitive answer you're going to get in philosophy from that. But they definitely, the majority of philosophers did believe in some type of a soul. And this concept of morality, if one of my favorite religions is the Egyptian mythology or theology, however they want to put it. I don't want to be offensive to them, but to minimize their beliefs versus others. But in Egyptian religion, when you die, your heart is weighed against Ma'at's feather. And Ma'at's feather represents truth and justice. And your heart keeps track of a record of all the things you've done in life, right? And if you've lived a virtuous life and you focused on the truth, then your heart balances with the feather. And
Mhm.
in that case, you get to go on, your spirit and your soul meet back up together and you go on to the afterlife. If your heart outweighs the feather because it's weighed down by what we might call sin, so it outweighs the
Mhm.
feather, then you just get terminated. Now, beliefs in Osiris, none of that matters. It's all about your actions, right? And I think beautiful concept for a religion in my mind, because it really prioritizes the truth and it prioritizes virtue. And but if you live this truthful, virtuous life, what is the real benefit to the individual other than it being a natural thing? Because we know that we can violate natural law all the time. We know we can do immoral and unvirtuous things, like owning slaves, for example, or doing terrible things to other human beings. So, what benefit, true benefit, is there to this virtuous life that we should live? And I think that the best answer is going to be found in the existence of a soul. But I don't have a whole theory fleshed out for it yet. But it does seem like that would be the logically makes sense to me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, quite a paradigm shift. And again, I'm not making any truth claims here because I have not fleshed this all out yet. But just
Right.
thinking about it and stepping back,
Well,
because I do like to be a critical thinker, and I
Mhm.
do like to challenge my own presuppositions, because like you said, we all have them, and I like to challenge mine. I like to identify them and recognize them and step back from them whenever I can and say, now wait a minute, am I presupposing something that I don't have a good argument or good evidence for? And if I am, I need to address it immediately, because it's paramount that
Right.
I try to align myself with what is objectively true as much as possible.
Well, that's a good that you do that. Yeah, I guess like we were saying, not everyone does that, but it's
No.
always helpful to see where you might be going wrong. You know, one thing you said earlier about how you ran your debates through Chat GPT. I haven't done that. I am quite curious to know, like, not that Chat GPT or AI is infallible, but I like, what do you do? Like, what's the? I guess I think I've seen other people do it, but like, do you need an account to do it, or can you
Yeah,
just
I
like
have
go to the
not
web?
actually. No, I've not personally done it. It was done. Scott actually from Mirror Point did me a solid, and he ran my last debate through. But and I'm not trying to be rude to Scott here when I say this, but just he somehow screwed it up, because the very first part, Chat GTP, whatever he used or however he did it, thought that Tom was arguing for objective morality there for a minute, which he obviously wasn't, and also
Mhm.
then accused me of committing a is ought fallacy by running my argument through evolution, which I didn't. I ran it through logic. Tom actually is the only one who cited evolution for his argument for subjective morality. We
Oh,
evolved.
interesting.
Yeah, so somehow it got screwed, but it got sorted out by the end. But it was kind of mixed up, so I'm not really sure. Like I said, I wasn't part of it, so I'm not sure how he did that. But basically, you just
Mm.
take the transcript and copy it into your LLM. And before Scott did it, my other debate, my very first debate against Matt Slick that I won, somebody who was in the comments section watching the thing live in the chats, named Pro Debates, I believe was the name he goes by. He apparently does a lot with debates and stuff, monitors debates. Well, he had pulled the transcript off the video after it posted and ran it through Chat GTP, and then posted those
Okay.
results back into the comments. I had no idea anybody was going to do that. So it was
Gotcha.
surprised. But I think that's honestly the best way to do it, because I mean, 90% of the time, you're going to either win or lose based on whether or not you have more friends in the audience. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
who's right. It's not even about who makes a better argument, because your last debate against that guy, what was his name, Charles or whatever, he was
Yeah.
doing a decent job. You guys were actually pretty evenly matched in the first part of that debate, but you got screwed by Donnie. I know you're trying to say nice things about him, but he really screwed you by just letting Charles go overtime, several minutes overtime, without even saying anything, because Charles was in the middle of really kind of gaining ground on you by exposing his strengths, which were in the Greek language itself and
Mm.
its language structure. It was doing literally nothing to substantiate his own argument, nor was he really picking apart your argument. It was just hurting your character, not your overall character as a
Yeah.
human being yet. That he did later with the Charlie Kirk Muslim
Yeah.
stuff.
That was
Once he
that
got
was
into
kind of
that, he lost that debate so badly because he acted so unprofessionally, on top of not really substantiating his own argument. But when he started somehow linking you to Charlie Kirk's death, I was like, what a douchebag, man. This guy is such a low life. You know, he clearly had nothing to offer the debate, so he thought he would just go into sync to that level. I was so disappointed as a human being, you know, that he would even act like that. That is such a low life thing to do. The Charlie Kirk thing, I mean, that was calling you a Muslim was bad enough. But then going to the Charlie Kirk, that was such a low. I don't even know if you could sink any lower than that, given the gravity of everything and how divisive that whole thing was. That was such a weak.
Yeah, that was.
part.
I mean, some
But-
people have a. I think honestly. Well, just comment. Well, go ahead. Go ahead. I won't.
Well, just to your credit, though, I think in the, like I say, in the, as far as the first part, you guys were, you know, going back and forth. But then once he started getting into where he could pin you down to basically make it look like he knew, not just make it look, but he clearly did know more about Greek and,
Mhm.
you know,
Oh,
linguistics
yeah, he did.
and stuff
Right.
like that. And Donnie let that go over without saying anything. He should have stopped him at the 30-minute mark or whatever timer was supposed to be, 20 or 30 minutes. And somebody asked, how much time do we have left in this? And Donnie's like, oh, we're going like 3, 4, 5 minutes over, but you guys were doing such a great job. I thought I'd just let it run. And I thought was because clearly Donnie agrees with Charles' position and not yours. And I've seen Donnie do this in other debates. There was a debate that Guts Gibbon had against about evolution. And she was debating some professor who was a Christian, some young earth creationist or whatever, which Donnie is as well. And Donnie was literally chiming in defense of the professor multiple times. It was like, it gets almost like debating two people at once. And one of them is supposed to be the moderator. So I know people won't even go onto his website and do that kind of stuff because that is, I've seen it. I saw it in your guys' debate and I've seen him do it with another debate. And I'm like, wow, it's not very impartial. Could you imagine you're debating somebody, all of a sudden the moderator comes in, you start debating the moderator too? I mean, that's just wild to me. But if you took your transcript from that debate and loaded it into ChatGTP, I pretty much could guarantee that, especially based on what he started doing with the Charlie Kirk Muslim stuff, they recognize, because the ChatGTP recognizes the logical fallacies. Those ad hominem attacks and those red herrings that he was throwing out there, those are major logical fallacies that
it would probably like flag them as being a problem for his side.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah,
well,
there's a
Go ahead.
flaw in my own argument that I didn't even recognize that ChatGTP called out, because I ground my argument in logic, and logical contradictions can't exist. And there's two areas that I cite for this. One is within the individual person themselves. So like the slave owner values his freedom and well-being. So the slave owner cannot say it's morally ethical to take freedom and well-being away from another human being. That's a logical contradiction, right? That
Right.
holds up. But when I was comparing the slave owner's view to the slave's view, while that is a contradiction, it's not a logical contradiction unless it's already been established that ethics and morality is objective. And since that's the debate, it technically is question begging. So I didn't even know that. So I learned something, you know, to criticize on my own argumentation and how to shore up my own arguments. So
well, that is crazy that it can point out logical flaws in your arguments and stuff.
yeah,
That is-
yeah.
Well, I maybe I'll try to figure that out because I am like even if it did say I won, I'm not sure how much I trust ChatGPT to accurately assess it, but it would be interesting because the few that I've read, which is a lot, I think I'm seeing some of the same ones that you are, they were pretty interesting to hear how things were assessed, and it gave the two debaters a grade. And it did kind of like say this person did a better job or won. And I found myself agreeing with ChatGPT about kind of how I was feeling about how the debate went. So it's pretty, I would like to, maybe I'll do that at some point. Maybe that'll be part of my debate with a part of my review of the debate. Maybe I'll try and figure out how to do that. Oh, we have,
Do you have any debates?
Go ahead.
Oh yeah.
I
was just asking if you have any debates.
Part of what maybe, I'm not sure how many people are going to hear this, but part of what I was going to say in my future debate review is, and I said this at the end of if people watch to the very end of the debate I had with Charles, not my conclusion, but literally the last thing I said before I was kicked off, or not kicked off, but like left, was I really do want to have more debates on this topic with other people. I'm, free grace. I think it's kind of like a fringe view. I would like to debate someone else who's more of like the more like general evangelical, like forgiven by grace, salvation gospel type thing that most Christians believe, and it's more like a general viewpoint than free grace specifically. Although I would be willing to debate free grace. I'm not saying I wouldn't do that. But what I'm trying to say is that it seems to me, and maybe this is just my ego, I think that maybe I should be careful. I was kind of hoping that some of these people would be like, I know how A's philosophy is wrong. I'm going to challenge him to a debate and show him. But so far, I have not seen anybody say anything, which is so there's a couple ways I can interpret that, which is like maybe people just don't care what I have to say. But also part of me wants to think like these people are still part of me, I don't know, part of me wants to think that these people are just avoiding me and avoiding my arguments because they know my arguments are so strong. I don't know. I'm not saying it's definitely that, but I am kind of like, I guess to answer your question, I'm hoping that more debates arise as a result of my previous debates, but so far, some of these people I was hoping would kind of rise to challenge me have not reached out to me. But I can't expect other people to react how I want them to react, especially because I'm not a very influential person. They might just not even know about it. But at the same time, it's kind of like I would very much like to debate some of these people about the same topic and try to demonstrate my viewpoint. But we'll see how it plays out. As of this moment, nothing has arisen, but that does not mean that nothing will arise. So we'll have to see how everything plays out. Thomas has joined us. I don't know if he joined because he wanted to say something in regards to what's already been said, or if he just wanted to grace us with his presence. What's up, Thomas?
Yeah, how's it going? So you were talking about your debate.
Right.
Now this was a debate on free grace. Is that correct?
It was a debate. I was debating somebody of the free grace perspective about the question of what is justification by faith alone or not. And that was so the debate prompt was, is justification by faith alone? And I was debating someone of the free grace perspective.
Ah,
right.
That's interesting. The quote unquote free grace position. That's what I always call it.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of I'm not sure how many Christians accept that view, but it seems to have grown more recently, probably because of how they've been trying to influence people on the internet and things like that. But I do believe it's a dangerous viewpoint, and to any extent that I
do too.
To refute them, I would like to be able to do that. So personally, again, I'm obviously biased, but I think I did very well in the debate. I think I was able to, in many ways, demonstrate problems with the viewpoint if I didn't just outright refute it. So I was happy I was able to do that and participate in accomplishing that. Again, that's just my perspective. People can take that for what it is, but yeah. So I kind of recommend, if you haven't watched it already, yeah, it's on the Standing for Truth channel. And I do want to go back, even though maybe some people could criticize the way that Donnie moderated the debate. He still didn't have to let me come on and debate in the first place. So there are a lot of Christian channels who will not let me speak at all. They won't acknowledge my presence. They won't let me make an argument. They won't, I can't even come on their channel. And even though these channels are supposed to be out debating and, refuting false viewpoints. So the fact that Donnie even allowed me on, I have to at least give him credit for that, because I know very well that not a lot of people not everyone operates that way. So he at least deserves to be recognized for allowing me on, even though he doesn't benefit at all from allowing me to do that in terms of advancing his own beliefs. So
Yeah.
But go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just the easiest way to debunk the quote unquote free grace position is really just to really emphasize the principle of participation, which, St. Thomas defines, kind of taking from Plato and Aristotle. He kind of defines the principle of participation as the idea that grace is this kind of created means of sharing in God's goodness. So he basically says that God is being itself, and essentially God is the supreme good, kind of taking from divine simplicity. And so when we participate in charity, and we participate in the common good, we essentially share in a life with God. And that's essentially how St. Thomas defines it. And I think if you're going strictly by the Bible, I think that view is in the Bible. I mean, especially if you read the second letter of St. Peter, that's one view where he actually uses the word participation to describe grace. And again, if free grace, if quote unquote free grace is true, well, that would seem to contradict the principle of participation, because again, that would imply that God is just writing a blank check. Grace is just kind of a blank check that a person has, as opposed to actually participating in the supreme good, which is God, which is communicated through the virtue of charity.
Mm. Yeah, for me, that's one way to look at it. But sometimes when you're trying to explain why a certain viewpoint might not be accurate, there's the deeper philosophical reason, and then there's the reason that your average person will be able to understand, if I could put it that way. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think that free grace can be shown to be false. Basically, I guess there's so many different ways to do it that don't involve necessarily such deep theological understandings of the different ways of like what grace is and things like that. I think the route that I chose was pretty effective, which is basically to show that Jesus just simply did not teach, what that is.
And I think too, I mean, if you want to just use a basic kind of biblical model, very simply, the Bible is very clear that no person is saved without the virtue of charity. The idea of the virtue of charity is that's kind of how we obtain a friendship with God. We obtain friendship with other people based on what we have in common. And by having charity for others, for creation, for the sake of God, we share in that same love of creation that God does. And the Bible is very clear about that. I mean, especially going through St. Paul also. I mean, St. Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 2, he says, I can have faith that moves mountains. Without charity, I am nothing. In the letter to the Romans, he says that loving your neighbor with all or loving the Lord your God with all your heart and loving your neighbor is the summation of the law. He says that again in the letter to the Galatians. He says the letter of the law is completed in one word: love the Lord your God with all your heart and love your neighbor. He says in the letter to the Colossians that charity is the bond of perfection. And in the first letter of St. John the Apostle also says that if a person doesn't have charity, they are not of God. So the Bible is very clear even using the letters of St. Paul, is very clear that faith is essentially pointless without the virtue of charity, and that charity. I mean, St. Paul even says charity is the most important virtue. So he places the virtue of charity, the importance of it, above faith explicitly in the scriptures. I would say, if you want to use a very simple kind of clean cut, non-philosophical biblical argument, there's countless verses saying that charity is required for salvation, and even if you have faith, that's pointless without the virtue of charity. I mean, that's not implicitly in the scriptures, that's explicitly in the scriptures.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I would really love to see how Charles would respond to you in a debate setting, or just at all. That's interesting. My guess is that they have their answers, but I would like to see what those answers are.
Well, do you mind if I ask a question about that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, and I'm not trying to push back at all. This is really your guys's, deal. Because I'm not a religious person, but just out of curiosity, because I find it fascinating. In my studies on virtue, in particular, which I've been doing more of because of my studies on ethics and morality, I'm not aware of really grace being a virtue other than theologians, St. Thomas Aquinas in particular, which you obviously mentioned. Neither is charity necessarily a virtue, because the virtue would be justice or mercy or forgiveness that are specifically mentioned as far as virtues by non-theologians. So would this just be like an exegesis within the scriptures itself? Because if you're going to tie in philosophy, don't you open yourself up to having somebody say, well, I don't recognize that as even a virtue? Or was that even something that's going to be relevant to that argument?
Yeah, that is a good question. The way St. Thomas generally describes grace is he describes grace as the fixing of a person's nature. So the idea is virtue is kind of this high pie in the sky thing that we're all trying to obtain. But ultimately, because our nature is wounded because of sin, they would say that there needs to be kind of an extra thing that is added to kind of get to that virtue. And grace is kind of like it's kind of like the sticky tape that kind of fixes sort of the gaps in a person's nature as a result of sin, and kind of gets a person to that area. There's the famous quote, "Grace does not destroy nature, it perfects it." Now, other Christian groups wouldn't exactly have that same view of grace. I know a lot of Protestants will kind of view grace in the manner that it's kind of like it's basically just a basic sort of clean forgiveness, or a clean sort of favorability. It's kind of just a clean letter of favorability in some sort of in some Protestant groups. But I know the way St. Thomas describes it is that it's essentially the kind of the means of fixing a person's nature so that they can obtain a level of virtue.
Yeah, that does line up with what I was thinking, because the way that I see it, and again, I don't study a lot of church fathers. I know Aquinas is a really brilliant philosopher, and I do use some of his stuff for natural law for my arguments for objective morality. Actually, I do love this a lot, but I'm certainly not a Thomist. But I would say that does kind of map onto it. My understanding is that grace, and as opposed to being a quote unquote virtue per se, it's almost like a necessary precondition in the theological view, that it's grace that kind of bridges that gap between us and the righteousness or God's, or even God to a certain degree, that God bestows this grace by like building a bridge. And that bridge is like a necessary precondition for us as sinners, like you said, according to the epistemology of particular religious ideas. But it's not something that, like the secularist argument from virtue, because secularism can recognize virtues from more like a Aristotelian concept or something like that. But yeah, that is an interesting point, and that does map onto what I was kind of thinking. I appreciate your clarity there.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, Thomas. I did say, and you know you can go back and watch this. I did say I was going to end the stream at 9 p.m. Eastern. I know you just joined, and it was a little, but I did say that earlier, so I'm not lying to you. Unfortunately, just because of my time constraints, we're going to have to end the stream.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah, but you know, it was good to basically have something on my channel after such a long, you know, basically I don't want to call it a break because it wasn't. The break is usually intended. I didn't intend to have a break this long from content, but I'm glad I was able to do at least something to get something going, and we'll try to get back to having more regular, at least some content. If it isn't a discussion, it'll at least be something, an idea I'm putting out there, a video about something relevant. But as for now, yeah, we're going to have to close things down. I guess what I'm trying to say is just be on that lookout for things in the future. Again, who knows when exactly things will happen or how much will be there, but I absolutely do want to continue to basically do things like this on at least as often as I can. But that being said, Thomas, why don't you give us any closing thoughts you might have? I know you weren't here for very long. You didn't hear a lot of the conversation, but just whatever you have to say, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot more to say. I mean, I would just, kind of concur with A's philosophy that I think, quote unquote, free grace is an impossible doctrine because, again, grace is a created means of participation or of, fixing a person's nature to allow participation in virtue and participation in God. And again, if somebody declares their faith in Christ one day and then becomes a serial killer or commits some sort of, irreversible, just horrible sin that's contrary to the virtue of God or contrary to charity, there's really no way for God's love to be communicated to them. Ultimately, charity is necessary, very necessary, as the scriptures I think very clearly point to. I think it's very necessary for God's love to ultimately be communicated to us.
Very quickly, we have a question. If grace is unmerited favor, can we merit favor? What's your gut reaction to that?
Yeah, so before a person has grace, no person can merit it. So when God gives the first call, ultimately there's no antecedent to that. However, after a person answers the call, then a person can merit a thing from God. So once a person participates in grace, they can begin to merit something, not in the sense that their goodness comes from their own accord, but in the sense that they are participating in the supreme good, which is God. There's the old saying that St. Thomas has that God crowns his merits, God crowns his works. And so the more we participate in grace after we receive it, the more we can merit a specific favor. But the first grace is completely unmerited.
Interesting. All right, Thomas, we're going to have to end it there. But as always, thank you for joining. You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you, A's.
All right, same thing. Again, it was good to talk with you. Objective, and feel free to give some closing comments and talk about your channel or whatever it is you have going on, and we'll talk again next time.
No, absolutely not. I just real quick on that comment. I think that there is theologians have really worked this out. The better, easier, more parsimonious way to describe it might be, as I mentioned before, that grace is really the necessary precondition to salvation. So that the grace part is that literally that the Yahweh God, or the God of the Old Testament, has created a system that allows for people to then become righteous, to overcome the sin nature. And that is a necessary precondition that's there, that makes everything else possible, is how I would see it based on what I'm reading. But again, that's, I'm not religious, so that's really, my opinion may not mean much to people. But as far as that goes, I did start a channel. Religion is not my primary focus. However, I'm more than willing to engage with people on that topic as long as the conversations can be respectful, and that goes both ways. I always try to treat people with respect best I can. I'm certainly not perfect, and I will make mistakes, obviously, but I try to own up to them. Offer sincere apologies when it's appropriate, and any criticisms that people want to point out regarding my channel or anything they've seen me do online in the past, I'm more than willing to discuss anything with people. I'd like A's to come onto my channel at some point because I have some questions. The thing I enjoyed the most about watching A's debates, those last two that I watched, A's I felt did a very good job. His performance was really solid. And I was really pleased to see that because I know that he put a lot of work into that. And I think his hard work paid off. But as someone who's been interacting with A's for the past few months, pretty regularly at one point, I have had some real questions about your own epistemology, and there's always been so much going on that we've never really dug into it. And so watching your two debates gave me so much more information than all the conversations we've had as to your own unique viewpoints. And I still have a lot of questions. So I would like to personally invite you to come onto my channel once I get my StreamYard and stuff figured out, to let me interview you if you don't mind. And then I basically just give you a platform that you can discuss freely, openly, without being judged. And you know how I do it, and give me a chance to really understand where you're coming from and maybe get some unique viewpoints out into the world. And if that's something you're interested in, I'd love to have you come by.
Well, yeah, I absolutely appreciate the invitation, and I'd be willing to come on your channel and talk about those things. And I will say, just because you saying that reminds me that I did say some things in the debates, some minor things that might have been inconsistent with things that I've said on my channel in the past. So I don't know if you noticed that, if that's kind of what you're referencing, but so in reviewing the debate and kind of thinking about my general philosophy, and when you're thinking about things in real time, answering questions in real time, you answer them, but sometimes you don't think about how it ties into everything else that you believe, and you try to answer it as consistently as you possibly can, obviously. But I did think back, man, I answered that way, but maybe it's not entirely consistent with things for instance, what I said about, one thing that I thought about was how I answered it. Charles asked me questions about the resurrection. And I very quickly answered that I think God can do miracles. Well, I technically don't believe that because it depends on how you define miracle. But little things like that, I don't want to go into it. But anyways, yeah, and you can absolutely feel free to try to refute. Again, I'm not telling you what to do on your own channel. But if part of what you want to do is point out things that you think I believe, which are baseless, wrong, superstition, you can, I don't want you to shy away from that because, if that's true, then I want to believe it. So yeah, if part of what you want, I'm not saying you do want to do this, but if you did want to think about things that I've said, which you believe are basically ultimately untrue, and kind of bring that out in discussion, don't hesitate to do that as well.
Oh, no, you know me, brother. I'm always willing to speak honestly and directly to people because I would prefer people do the same with me. It's just, I feel like that's the best way to communicate to each other. As long as we understand at the end of the day that we respect each other as human beings and we have self-respect, then everything should fall into place. I think healthy pushback, I've said this a number of times, even though I'm an agnostic, I have disagreements with atheists and agnostics because I'm an independent, politically speaking. A lot of people line up with politics one side or the other. And I can agree with some things on the left and some things on the right, but I don't agree with everything, even close to everything on either side. So I'm constantly having to, get into discussions with people where people don't agree with me. I think that's healthy as long as it's done in a healthy, respectful manner. And I think that you can handle a conversation like that. There are clearly people I talk to, as soon as you question, don't affirm everything they say or believe, they just lose their shit. And, that's just unfortunate, but I'm not one of those people. And I don't see you as being one of those people either. I think you're man enough to defend your beliefs, stand by what you believe. And I think that you're humble enough if the evidence can be presented in a way that you can digest it or that you will, perceive it. I think you're willing to at least engage try to be intellectually honest with what's being presented. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about you. So I should get out of your hair here because you are trying to close this down, but I appreciate, as always, talking.
Yeah, and I appreciate your engagement and interaction on the channel, and absolutely, let's keep in touch. You know, like we said, email me whenever you want to do something, and keep an eye out for future conversation on this channel as well. And that will, okay, he's out. Thank you. All right, well, appreciate it. All right, so basically, yeah, I have to run. The gray hairs leave. Glad you're here, Mike. I haven't talked to you in a while. Glad to see you're out there doing well. I hope you're doing well, anyways. So again, this is the first stream I've done on my channel in over a month. I'm disappointed in that. Again, part of the reason for that was my debate preparation. I was focused more on the debate, and I wanted to. Hopefully, it paid off. I feel like at the very least, it did provide value. Focusing on the debate, because I was able to present my views pretty well, not perfectly by any means. There are obviously times when I felt like I was kind of weak or didn't answer things correctly or whatever, or could have said something better. You're always going to feel that way in a debate. You know, it's almost impossible to have a perfect debate where everything works out perfectly and you say everything exactly the right way and you remember to say everything you wanted to say. So that was part of the reason I haven't done much recently, but another part of the reason I've just been busy outside of the debate. So I was preparing for the debate and just being busy in general. And honestly, my YouTube channel just kind of fell by the wayside. How much exactly I'll be doing in the near future? Probably not that much, to be honest, because it's the holidays. The holidays are busier for everybody usually. And that's maybe, generally a lot of people feel busy during the holiday. I certainly am feeling kind of pressured at this time. So I'm not sure how much I'm going to be doing in December, but I do absolutely want to continue, the content of this channel and the general purposes I've been pursuing for a while now. So I do plan on having more conversations like this and just content in general. How much of it I'll actually get done, I don't know. My only thing I like to say is in ending is just keep an eye out for it. I absolutely do plan on making reference to especially my last debate, because I felt like that was the more important of the two I've done. The first one was about the deity of Christ, which is also an important issue. And a lot of Christians think it's, salvific. I personally don't. I think you can be wrong about these things and still be saved. But the question of the second debate was actually, how are you saved? Which is, in my opinion, probably the most important question that could possibly be asked. And I'm still kind of looking around to see how other people may or may not respond. And of course, I'm not seeing everything, but I want to kind of give it time to see what materializes. At this point, the fact that not a whole lot has materialized signifies that maybe nothing will. But again, I want to give it a little time. But maybe I'll do a full debate review at some point in the future and basically give my thoughts on it in a more comprehensive way. So be on the lookout for all that. Please like and subscribe. For those of you who watched the debate, perhaps and saw something you wanted to ask me about, or just kind of learn more about my view, keep tuning in. Keep tuning into my channel, and maybe you can learn something. Maybe even if you don't agree with me on everything, we can find some common ground. All right. That being said, until next time, thank you all, and God bless.